Yeah. Well, it reminds me of what Jay Rosen at NYU wrote several weeks ago, and that is that media outlets, at the very least, need to have a threat assessment system. There was some question as to what that would look like and what would the potential threats be. Well, we know this morning, if we didn't know several weeks before, that threat starts with, again, Donald Trump's plan, and this is his plan, as John Heilemann said, it's obvious. He's going to try to declare victory on Election Day. And he's going to try to fight and discount as many votes, millions, tens of millions of votes that are mail-in ballots. And he's going to use intimidation. He's telling white supremacists and anti-Semitics to stand by. His family is talking about an army to go and intimidate voters on Election Day and beyond. So if you're the governor of the state of Missouri, you need to have your plan in place ready for Donald Trump to try to disrupt every voting station, for Donald Trump to try to disrupt the counting of hundreds of thousands of ballots in your state and Wisconsin. If you are the governor of Michigan, the same holds true. You know what Donald Trump's going to do. You need to tell voters in your state what you're going to do to make sure that their vote is going to be protected. If you are the governor in Pennsylvania, the same holds true for you. If you have listened to Donald Trump the last month, you know what he's going to try to do. He's going to try to do everything in his power to stop voters in Pennsylvania who cast mail-in ballots from having those votes counted. You need to let the people of Pennsylvania know what is your plan. Now, there are a couple of states, Florida, we're probably going to know by 10, 11 o'clock at night in Florida, if it's not a close race, who the winner is in that state, because they start counting their ballots early. If you vote early, they start counting the votes early. That process should, and I say should, be a little more reasonable. Or if you're in Arizona, that's another same day state that we should know the results by the end of the evening if they aren't razor thin and too close like they were in Florida in 2020. So you know the threat. Donald Trump has told you what he's going to do. And if you're a governor of those swing states, Iowa, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, you need to have your plan ready. And you need to tell voters in your state what you are going to do to protect their vote. Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.